always a pleasure to work with Fad. We've been good partners for the past 3 to 4 years. And let's see, how can I be of use?
All right, great. So, I mean, before we delve into any of these questions, it would be great if you could just give your introduction to us. Talk a little bit more about your professional journey, your life. I mean, what are the things that make you tick in the morning, wake up and get motivated? Just a little bit more about you, so we can all truly, be in touch with you. Yes.
Sure. So I graduated, I come from a creative background. I graduated in graphic design. I'm in Brazil. I'm Brazilian originally. I've been living here in Dubai since 2012. So basically my entire professional life has been within the creative sector. Originally working with creative agencies, a lot in the branding area, a little bit of advertising as well. And later on, as I move up in my career, I was geared more and more towards the strategic side of the business. You could say that I'm a much better strategist than a designer. So the opportunities, as they came, it became clearer and clearer to me, this shift of direction, and it's actually something that I enjoy doing a lot. However, the fact that I have graduated from a graphic design or from a design school, it was always a big asset to me in order to being able to interface with the creative community, to speak the same language, to understand the creative process, to understand how creative solutions are developed and deployed. But at the same time, my personality trait, which is more connected to the strategic and the business development side, also meant that I could do that interface with clients, that I could sit across the table with high-level executives and convey the type of solutions that we're trying to present, understand the organization's challenges, and be that messenger between both sides, because there is it's always challenging when we are working within the creative economy, because it's something that is still, to a certain extent, is still something so fresh, and the more traditional side of business not necessarily has the full grasp or the full overview of what the creative economy can bring into an organization. That conversation becomes difficult many of the times, right? How do you convey for both sides? And it's not about the creatives don't know how to talk to business people, and business people don't know how to talk to creatives. So it's always a challenge to have that conversation in the first place. At the same time, my professional experience has put me in direct exposure to a myriad of different segments. So everything from retail to development, to oil industry, to fashion. So it gave me the opportunity to work with many different industries, which to me is always, in terms of motivation, that's probably one of the most refreshing things. I'm never actually 100% sure of what I'm doing, because there's always a big component of trying to understand a new industry, trying to understand different stakeholders, trying to understand different perspectives, different necessities. So that is very, to me personally, that is very exciting. That is very, it helps me keep driven in my profession. And lately, since I joined DDFC, it has been even bigger, actually, change, because it involves working on the creative community or on the creative industry from a much wider perspective, from a public agency perspective, where you are concerned, or you have to be concerned with the development of the industry as a whole. So it's not about a client and service provider relationship. It's about understanding the market as a whole, understanding future possibilities, understanding current difficulties or threats or barriers, and how to overcome these challenges as we go, and how to adjust whatever is being done to better suit and to provide a better opportunity for the different stakeholders in the industry.
Thank you. That was pretty interesting. So just to bring everybody on the same platform and the same level, I just want to ask you a second question. I think it's a very simple question. What could you just quickly tell us what is DDFC? That is the Dubai Design and Fashion Council, and In5, what these two are, so that everybody understands exactly. I mean, some of us are from India, from Bombay, from Pune, and we've got students from Dubai also, and we've got people joining us from all over the world. So just to make sure that everybody understands.
Of course. So I'll start with the DDFC, Dubai Design and Fashion Council. That's a government entity and is an industry development entity. So basically the role of the DDFC is to, from a government perspective, understand the creative sector, understand what we have here currently in the UAE. Obviously we are from Dubai, but we look at the UAE and the GCC and MENA region as a whole as well, because of the proximity of these markets. So understanding what is the current reality, understanding what are the possibilities, the economic possibilities of this particular industry on the near future, and how can we help to accelerate that growth, right? It's all, the UAE has been over the past few years going through a major transformation in government mentality in terms of diversifying the economy, looking at other, what has been so far a traditionally oil-related country, has been shifting towards diversifying the economy, looking at other sources of revenue for the country, looking at other areas of development, taking advantage of the talent that is here, and of the fact that it's a country that is highly attractive of international talent as well. So all of these elements, they come into, we need to overlook and understand how these different pieces move together in order to define from a government perspective, be that in terms of immediate action, in terms of policy, in terms of advising the Dubai and federal government of specific needs that will help the growth of this industry. So that's the role of the DFC. It's a very, to a certain, it sounds a lot boring, but it's actually not, because it involves a very deep understanding of what's going on around us and how we can be more effective, how we can establish more interesting partnerships with other markets, and so on and so forth.
It doesn't sound boring, honestly.
Okay. It can be boring sometimes. And then on the other side, we have In5. So In5 is an initiative that is backed by the Dubai government. Is a joint venture actually between TCOM Group and the Dubai government. TCOM Group is one of the biggest real estate developments here in Dubai. So they are responsible for building the main business communities that we have in Dubai. So Dubai Internet City, Dubai Media City, Knowledge Village, and so on and so forth. All of these have been are developments that have been built by the same company called TCOM. And back in 2013, TCOM and the Dubai government, they entered an agreement to start a business incubator. Back then, this was very, very derived from the Silicon Valley model, right? So where you have all those big tech startups coming out online all the time, and this crazy multi-million-dollar transactions that we see in the news from the, every now and then you see this, okay, a company that you didn't even understand that it could exist somehow has been sold by, I don't know, $1 billion, right? And it's a very fast pacing, and it has a lot to do, obviously, when we look at the Silicon Valley area in the US, it has a lot to do with the availability that they have in terms of, it's the trinity, right? Of talent, money, and people there wanting to do the job on the ground.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you. I mean, that sounds interesting. I've been to In5, everybody, and I've seen Thoma in essence right over there. And it's a brilliant place. So I keep telling my students back in India also that if when we do all visit to Dubai, we will definitely make a visit to In5. So taking a leaf from that point, and now we're going to steer the direction into a different side, because a lot of our students aim and they choose and they aspire to be entrepreneurs in the future. So let's take this entire discussion to another direction. So what, according to you, would a winning idea or a business really look like? And when you first look at it, are there any common characteristics when you look at these kind of things? Because you sit in the middle of all of it. So it's a good question to ask you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Just to complement about In5 quickly, since 2013, we expanded from tech into design and media as well. So now we are applying similar a similar concept to media and design as well. But to answer your question, in terms of, I mean, fashion specifically and a few areas within design, they are, the entrepreneurial path is kind of a given, right? A lot of the creatives will try dipping their toes and building their own business. I've been there, and it's very challenging. And I think I sympathize a lot with designers and fashion designers starting their own business, because as I just said, I was there. I finished my university, I started my creative agency, and I had to learn everything as I was going, and it was a nightmare. It was a very, very challenging situation. It was super. The university, coming from a creative school, I had no training in how to operate a business. I knew how to design, I knew how to run a project, but not how to run a business. And that's, I think it's still, from my personal experience, it's still one of the biggest challenges, is understanding, is for the creative professional to have the understanding that my creative process, my idea, my artistic approach is one thing, and it exists within the creative area of the business, but it's surrounded by the business itself. And you need to understand what's going on the other side as well. More and more nowadays, professionals, if you go to any job listing, you have more and more companies asking for supermen or superwomen, right? You have to know how to do everything. And right or wrong, we can argue about that. It's just a reality. It's the reality that it is. And that is, you can elevate that to the maximum when you're talking about entrepreneurship, because it literally depends on, is directly related to the effort that you are dedicating to your business, that you are concerning yourself with every aspect of your business, of understanding, getting the right partners, getting the right talent to do the stuff that you cannot or don't want to do it. But even if you're not directly involved in that, you need to understand what's going on, and you need to have to master that.
Thank you. So just taking away from that same response that you've given me, the next question is very simple. How should an entrepreneur build their core team? And what should they keep in mind when they're building that core team of theirs?
I think assembling a team is probably the hardest part, at least from my side, because if you take, let's say, if you take roughly the different areas of a business, right? You have your, let's say, a design or a fashion design business. So you have the creative part, then you have production, then you have business development. You have to sell. If you don't sell, you know, what's the point? You have to have your legal in order. You have to have your finance in order, and so on and so forth. And all of that is relatively simple to understand and to achieve. Getting the right team is a totally different story, because it is directly impacted by the human factor. And there are a few known pitfalls that people will hit when they're putting a team together. And from my perspective, I would say as the top ones to try to avoid is, first and foremost, just because the person is your friend doesn't mean that it's going to be a good employee. It is unfortunate, but it is a reality. And I think nothing can ruin a good friendship as a business partnership. You're literally going to get an enemy for life. So be very mindful of that. If you have somebody around you that you know, that you trust, it's very good. It's amazing to have the more the merrier for your personal life. When you're talking about your business, it's not you, it's your business. So you need to keep that distance. You need to detach yourself from the emotional part of the relation and understanding, okay, is this person that I'm bringing into my organization, first, from an objective perspective, does that person has the skill that I need? Does that person has the commitment that I need? Does that person has delivers the way that I needed this person to deliver, right? Looking from an objective perspective. And the other is looking from a subjective perspective. Am I being too lenient because that person is a friend of mine, so I don't care about the time the person comes in the office? I don't care if the person is taking a week longer to deliver, but because it's somebody that I'm that I'm very comfortable being around, I might not be paying attention that much. And especially if your business is becoming successful, that is a snowball, because you'll be hosting a parasite to your business, right? Not trying to diminish anybody, but you're hosting a monster, right? You're raising a monster within your own business, which makes no sense. So we need to be very mindful of that. The other part, so that's one element in terms of working with people that you are friends with. You have to keep as professional as possible all the time, especially if you're the sole owner of the business, because you might end up losing both your friend and your business. So it doesn't make sense to risk that much. The other element that I would call that I speak to anybody about this is look at your own ego, right? I think this is a major hurdle in all levels of organizations that I have worked with, from startups to national oil companies. Egos are a destroyer of possibilities. So and it's natural. I have it. You guys have. Everybody has an ego, but we need to keep our egos in check, and understand to what point I'm doing that just because of my ego, or how much is my ego interfering in that process. And that's especially true for creative professionals. Creative, they have an overinflated ego by nature, right? Of having for some reason, and I will include myself in that, for some reason we have that notion that our perspective, our solutions, our designs are the best in class, the best possible. And if you take a very honest and step back a little bit, you see that most of the time that's actually not true. And most of the time, the greatest innovations in any industry, they came from collaboration. So obviously, that doesn't mean that you need to be, that you don't have to be protective of your work. Of course you do. Of course you have to value your work, but value your work not from your personal perspective, but match our work against its peers. So if I'm a beginner, if I'm a emerging designer or a fresh talent in the market, I need to match myself against other fresh talents. That's my first comparison basis, right? I need to understand from the guys that are on the same level that I am, professionally speaking. I need to understand, what am I doing that is worse, better, or that I can improve in order to become better than them, right? And that is a very honest exercise, and it's very hard for people to do it because it gives, you know, work is a lot of work. So when you dedicate yourself a lot to a given project, is natural that you're going to be overprotective a little bit, that you're going to have that parenting feeling that nobody can say anything against it. But it's actually very good when you have the ability to look at whatever you're doing, match against people who are on the same, I don't like to say the same level, but on a similar situation than yours, and be honest about it. Is it better? Is it not? Can that guy be more, I don't know, maybe the guy next to you can deliver faster, he has a larger network. So you need to analyze this from a very holistic type of approach, right? And the other thing about ego is understanding that all the time we need help. Nobody accomplishes anything alone. It's simply, I haven't seen that happen yet, right? So if you take any big success, in any industry, you can take the Ford in the 20s, you can take Apple in the 90s and 2000s, you can take whatever, pick and choose. Everybody, all the so-called geniuses, they are 90% about the effort, right? Talent is actually very overrated, right? It's much more about the commitment that you have, the effort that you put in, and the ability that you have to measure your effort, in the sense that, am I putting the right effort at the right thing at the right moment? or I'm literally trying to punch a hole through a wall. That's not going to happen. So having that ability to self-evaluate and do that as a constant exercise, right? It's very important to keep our egos in check.
Thank you. I'm going to use that statement. Work is a lot of work from now onwards. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
And also the ego statement, I'm sure we can use it within the classrooms to make sure that we sculpt our talents with that thought process.
Thank you. That was amazing. So my next question is for all the young entrepreneurs listening to today, and we have a lot of them in house today. And very simple question for all of them. Could you kindly tell us what is a roadmap to getting funded? Because we get a lot of these questions. How do we get funded? So if you could, I mean, not make it too complicated, but then just for them to hear that how much effort does it take to get funded finally?
Well, that's literally the $1 million questions, right?
Yes.
So I think that the crucial element to funding, and this to me, from my experience, it's true, irrespective of the industry. The crucial element to funding is knowing what to communicate to investors and understanding what the investors are communicating to you. So we see similar scenarios on the tech, within E5, on the tech, media, and design sectors, of the entrepreneur trying to convince the investor that the whatever he has as a product, as an app, or as a collection, whatever it is the most revolutionary thing in the world. And this on itself is a mistake, for a simple reason. Nobody can tell what's going to be the next big thing in the world. There is no such thing. There is no crystal ball, right? So yes, presenting to an investor a very well rounded up product, whatever that is, if it's an app, if it's a SaaS, if it's a fashion collection, whatever that is, presenting it very professionally, very well done, round up, it's absolutely a must, definitely. But the investor, we always need to keep in mind that the investor most likely is not going to be, in the case of Fed students, is not going to be a fashion designer. Is somebody from a different background, right? And that person might not understand the creative pool of whatever you're presenting, right? And that's what I was saying between of designers being able to communicate with people who are not designers. So if you put 5 designers in a room, we could probably spend a week arguing about the different elements of a collection, right? In terms of color palette, fabric, finishing, you name it. You can spend a week doing that. That's not a problem to us. But when you sit with an investor, that might, obviously it's not 100% of the time, but you need to account for the fact that those things might not mean much to that guy. So and you need to understand what is an investor, right? Let's take a step back here quickly. So what's an investor? It's somebody who has money. And what is the main reason that somebody will give you money? Is for him to take a lot of money back. Otherwise, what's the point? So if I cannot ensure that the investor is going to make his money back, I have nothing. I can have the best product in the world. If I cannot show the guy that if he gives me an X amount of money, I will give it back an X plus amount of money, there is no conversation. The conversation is dead already. And conveying that message or convincing the investor that that can happen is the only barrier that needs to be taken down, and is the one that 99% of people fail, because they cannot speak the language of investors. So if I'm looking for investment to my company, to my startup, be that to for whatever reason, I need to scale up my business. I need more money. I need money now. I'm going to go after an investor. Okay. What can I show the investor that will convince him I'm presenting him a good deal? Because in the end of the day, that's all it is. I need to show him a good deal. I need to show that if you give me money, I will make money and he's going to make money. That's it. So I need to understand first, who is the investor that I'm interfacing with? And the more information that I have there, the better. So when we're talking to companies that are specialized in investment, that conversation is actually a bit easier, because they will probably have in their website the type of companies that they invest. If I'm talking to a private investor, somebody that I have approached or that I have been introduced to, or that approached my company, I need to get as much information about that person as I can, right? And then obviously I need to understand how the conversation or the investment pitch works in terms of what it is that I need to show this guy, how long do I have to do that? There is the 5-minute rule, right? Which I don't believe it's true anymore. If you are able to keep somebody's attention for 5 minutes on a pitch investment conversation, you are already very good, because that simply doesn't happen anymore, right? And I need to remember that is a highly competitive type of market. If I'm an investor and I have money, that means that I'm being approached by hundreds of companies every month. So my filtering process as an investor is very fast. If I don't see on the first page what I want, done. I'm not going to go through 45 slides on a presentation. No way. I'm not going to waste my time on that because I have a bunch of other companies to look at, right? So it is very important to prepare yourself for investment. That's this whole part of understanding the investment actually serves to prepare you for investment, which is another thing that we see happening a lot within our entrepreneurial ecosystem, which is the entrepreneur is not ready. He might need, and he might understand that he needs investment, but he's not investment ready, or she is not investment ready, in the sense that when that person sits across an investor, across the table from an investor, and the investor says, okay, so what is your sales projection for the next 12 months? And the person never had a record of their sales, right? Or doesn't have a fixed price structure, or doesn't have the data to back whatever they're presenting to the investors. So that basically kills the conversation. And that's where all that previous conversation that I was, point that I was alluding to of understanding your business and being on top of your business, it's mandatory. If you want to be, you cannot be a business owner without owning the business, right? You cannot think I'm going to have a company, but I'm only going to do the functions within the company that I enjoy doing it. Unfortunately, that's not how it happens, right? I mean, it would be very good, it would be very nice, not true. So having the understanding of our business, understanding what investors are looking for, and preparing your company for that conversation. So the moment that you sit on the table with an investor, you have all the answers on your head. It's okay. Look, this is my business. This is how it's structured. This is what I do. This is my product, my solution, whatever it is. This is my team. This is how I'm structuring my growth. So all of these questions needs to be answered already on the moment that you sit down on the table with an investor, right? Otherwise, it's the chasing your own tails kind of situation that we see a lot of the entrepreneurs falling, where they keep coming to us and say, look, I need investment. I have this great idea. And look, it might be a great idea. I'm not be the best person to judge that. So I'm not challenging the validity of your idea, but no investor is going to put money in something that he doesn't understand.
Thank you very much. I think that we've got one more. You cannot be a business owner without being an owner. You're on a roll today.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think what you were saying is exactly true. So just to give you a clear understanding of all our audience, the audience today, we've got postgraduate students in management, in luxury and fashion management also. So they are learning the business of fashion. There are fashion designers also on board. We also have fashion stylists. So there's a whole group of different people. And what we always say in FAD is that we all come together to create a wonderful team. So we could actually come together. So a designer plus a management student plus a stylist plus a photographer, all of them coming together to create the next big idea. But I totally understand your perspective of getting funded. And I think that is very much true. People, most of the times people don't have it figured out. So on the basis of that question, I want to ask you a second question, which is, what should an early stage fashion/creative startup focus upon?
Well, first of all, it's obviously on the product, because in the end of the day, if you're a company, you're selling something. So you need to have whatever it is that you're selling needs to be round up and needs to be to the quality that you're proposing to. And that goes through that kind of ego check that I was mentioning before, in understanding, look, that it might not be the case for me to try to fight against big luxury companies. It might be the case for me to explore a market that is underserved, right? So doing your homework in terms of, okay, what it is that I want to do and how does that fit in the existing market is a must. You have to answer that question to yourself. Understanding, from that understanding, you also need to derive or extrapolate possibilities. Look, if what I was imagining initially to do, from my own research, I'm seeing that is going to be next to impossible. So perhaps I can split that into earlier steps and build towards that direction, or explore a totally different direction altogether, right? I think that's another pitfall probably that I would say that early stage entrepreneurs they might end up falling into, which is, if you fail, it's not a problem. Everybody has failed. Everybody, we fail on a daily basis, and that's just part of the learning process. You just need to become more effective when you're failing, right? So understanding what you're doing before you're actually launching yourself to go and do it, it just helps you minimize how much or how bad you're going to fail, right? So that's an important exercise. Understanding the product that you want to develop, and I'm calling product, but it can be anything. I'm using the word product, but obviously it can be anything. So having defined what it is that you're doing and to whom, and that's another, probably another crucial point that is overlooked by a lot of people. If I'm producing something that I need to sell to somebody. So I need to understand who that somebody is. And then we see, it's funny because we see descriptions of target audiences. Oh, I'm going to sell my product to women from 18 to 65 years old. You just described literally 60% of the world population. That's just not enough, right? That's just not enough. That's just not a deep level enough for you to understand who you're selling to, right? So you need to put more effort in understanding who are your audiences. They can be very, as much as you want. That's not, I'm not saying that, that you need to focus on a specific particular niche. No, you can be as generic as you want, but you need to have a better understanding than that, because that's what's going to dictate the success of your product, right? And especially when we're talking about design as a whole, fashion design included, we need to remind ourselves that we are not designing it for us. We're designing, whatever we're designing to somebody else. So it becomes, to a certain degree, it becomes irrelevant, our feeling towards what we're designing, right? Yes, we need to enjoy it, of course, but more importantly, we need to make sure that that is actually catering the audiences that we are aiming at, right? So having the understanding of your product, having the understanding of who are your audiences, and having the understanding of who are your competition, which is another thing that we see startups recurring telling us, look, my product is innovative, I have no competition. And that's just preposterous. Competition means anybody who's taking money away from you, who's taking clients away from you. So even if you don't have a direct competitor, you have an indirect. So you need to understand who those are, because that's going to dictate to you, how can you take the audiences of your competitor and bring it to your business, right? So entrepreneurs and emerging talents, they have the tendency of overlooking these things, overlooking the definition of the core audiences, overlooking the definition of competition, overlooking the path that you need to follow in order to achieve your goal, right? Because things don't happen overnight, right? It demands actually from you. It demands a lot of effort. It demands commitment. It demands a good deal of pain. and deception, and being disappointed with the results. But that's just part of the game. You need to overcome that, and you need to keep pushing it. But as long as and then basically you're left with two ways of doing things. You can play it by ear, right? You can wing things as you go, and hopefully you're going to achieve a good result. Or you can try to understand the path ahead of you and plan on how you want to walk that path, which to me just makes more sense, right? If I know what are my challenges in the future, in the near future, I can prepare to it, and by the time I get there, I am more empowered to deal with it. Obviously, I cannot anticipate everything. Nobody's a magician, but as you keep that constant exercise of understanding what's right ahead of you, 3-4 steps ahead of you, that's what's going to give you the ammunition, and it's going to keep you on your toes. It's going to keep you moving, right? You know that's coming. It's not going to be a surprise for you. So that's those are all, it is a lot of things at the same time. And that's why I would go back to the point even that you just mentioned, Manashi, of work with other people, taking care of all of these elements on yourself, on your own, while at the same time managing a business. It's very challenging, and it's not for everybody, right? You can, I would even advise the students of looking for psychological researches, on the big CEOs of the planet. And there are a few studies out in the market that they put these guys, the Steve Jobs and the Elon Musks, this kind of person, or even the high-level executives on the fashion world. That type of personality is really rare. It's not everybody who can handle 120 hours work week. I cannot, for sure. I don't have that on me, right? But there is this specific type of personality that it's a natural behavior to them to do like that. Me, I don't have that. I need to. It's a conscious effort. I know what I need to do, and I focus myself and I commit myself on doing that. It's not something that it comes to me naturally. And again, that's not a problem, right? But aspiring to be something that is an exception is not a very smart strategy, right? If my professional aspiration is something is becoming, let's say, I want to become the next Bill Gates, right? That's my personal aspiration. That's very naive from me, right? I need to set my goals on a more achievable scale to myself, right? And go step by step. And by the time I reach that, the closer step to me, then I'll look into the next one. And yes, maybe I will become the next Bill Gates in the future. I hope. But it's not something, I don't work every day in the morning looking at that.
I think you've summed it all up. I have nothing to say to that, but inshallah, we just hope that you become the next Bill Gates.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't complain.
Okay, my next question, and this time I really want you to start looking into that crystal ball. We are not going to hold you against it. We are not going to take your words seriously. Not seriously, but we're not going to hold you against it. So my question is going to be very simple. What are your predictions for a post-COVID world? There's a follow-up to this.
Mm-hmm.
This is for a post-COVID world. And the follow-up question is, do you see major changes in buying patterns of consumers and an overall shift towards tech-driven fashion businesses?
Well, I've actually been thinking a lot about that lately and having a lot of discussions on that regard lately. So I think, yes, I think we are on the verge of a big transformation in everybody's lives in many aspects, and many people will have a tougher time or will have to go through much more drastic changes. But in terms of buying habits, for sure, I think this is something the work relations will definitely be impacted to a more, a greater or lesser degree. Buying habits absolutely will be impacted. because from the information that is available so far about COVID-19 is not something that is going to vanish overnight. It's going to stay with us for a few, a good deal of time ahead of us, apparently. And while we hope it comes under control very soon, or at least as soon as possible, until that happens, we need to adapt. It's something that you cannot escape. I think whoever is considering going back to the same exact type of life that you had before COVID is wildly mistaken. I don't think that's going to happen. Even after a cure or a vaccine or a treatment, whatever that is, comes in, and I do believe that is going to come, and hopefully soon. Even after that, I don't think we can ever go back to living the same exactly life we were leading before. So definitely that's going to impact everything. It's going to impact your daily work on your company. It's going to impact how the consumers behave. It's going to impact how people behave in general. What are those changes? How much of that impact is going to trickle down to our daily lives? It's hard to say. Obviously, it cannot be predicted, but I think it's a smart move to be prepared for that, to be keep both eyes open actually to the changes that are happening, to how governments are being. I think especially when we look at the roles that government are having to play now, which basically is shaking every politician in the world out of their comfort zone. And this is going to impact people's life, absolutely. In terms of the technology side, in the fashion industry, I think that's just going to speed up a process that has already started. There is no, when we say, that's even a discussion that I have internally at In5, that it makes no sense to have an In5 tech anymore, because it makes no sense to have a business without tech anymore. It's just how we interface with the world right now. And it's not like technology is going to go away. No, it's just going to become more and more present in our lives. So for the fashion industry, I think is one of the, and I have said that in previous sessions with FAD that I participated. I think fashion is one of the industry that is lagging further behind in terms of technology. It's just something that is not on the radar of fashion people. How to deal with technology, how to employ it, how to use it to improve the industry as a whole, improve in terms of how a service is offered, how a garment is produced, how a garment is delivered to the customer, whatever that is. I think tech industry, the fashion industry has overlooked tech for too long already. It is an industry that is deeply rooted in very, very traditional, old style thinking. And I don't say that as a derogative to the industry. That's not my point at all. It's just that the more the fashion industry resists in its own dogmas, the biggest is going to be the change. And I think I could probably say that the Zara effect was actually just an introduction of the type of change that the fashion industry can have if they don't look ahead, right? So Zara was a huge disruption in the business model in terms of the fast fashion and opening huge stores and, side by side with very traditional high luxury labels and this kind of things. And that, it sent shockwaves through the industry, right? And there is this whole movement that is being headed by the more traditional approach of fashion against fast fashion. But at the same time, and look, this is not a judgment of value. I'm not saying that Zara is a better option than the conventional fashion or the other way around. I'm not judging which one is the better. I'm just saying that the implications that come from that occasion is that you have, at the same time that you have the more traditional fashion industry basically putting up a fight against the Zaras and the offspring of Zara that came after, right? The H&Ms and so on. At the same time, those brands were responsible for a huge popularization of fashion and styling. So if you go to any fashion YouTuber channel, they will recommend going to Zara, going to H&M, and you can find anything that you need. It's basically their sales pitch for a YouTube channel today, right? So it's always a trade-off. What I'm trying to say here is that it's always a trade-off. Even if it's something that is wildly against the industry, it will generate a type of implication that you cannot foresee, right? And so just going back to the point to finalize, I think there is a huge opportunity for fashion designers to further explore the technology within the context of fashion, right? And it can be in any level. It can be at a material level in terms of the fabrics and the finishings. It can be in terms of how to track where your garments are coming from, where your fabrics are coming from, with all the responsibility, social responsibility that fashion is also lagging behind. We need to remind ourselves, right, that fashion, it only loses to oil for environmental impact, which is a huge statement. I was shocked when I learned that. I had no idea whatsoever, but it actually is the second most damaging carbon emission environmental attacker, human activity, which is just absurd if you consider the amount of different materials, techniques, policies that are in place to ensure that that doesn't happen, right? So there is, and I think technology will be the answer for a lot of those questions. It's not going to be I'm not trying to paint technology as the holy savior of the fashion industry. I don't think that was never the case for technology to anything. It's just that fashion is something that will never die. There is no way to kill the fashion industry because people will continue to wear garments and wear clothes. You know, it's an industry that is everlasting. However, how much of that industry impacts people's life on a daily basis and how meaningful is that impact, I think that's where technology can become a huge support or a huge medium for fashion to achieve that.
Thank you very much for that. I think that was the most insightful dialogue that we've had yet. I think it made a lot of sense coming from you specifically. So my next question is, and I think this will be my last question. After that, we can pick up some questions from the audience. My next and the last question is that on the other side of this Zoom meeting, there is, I think, close to 170, 180 students, young, bright-eyed, intelligent, smart, and they're listening to all these things. How can they be one day a part of In5 or DDFC? And how do you see there is a possibility of your organizations and you yourself supporting all these talents if they have that winning combination of all the things that you just spoke about?
Well, I think the first good news is that they don't have to have all of that to join In5. That's why we are here, to help them get there. I think that's the key role of In5. In5 is a business incubator on the very traditional sense of the word. It means that we exist to help early stage businesses to fast track their initial phase of growth, right? Joining In5 is actually super easy. We have two ways. Basically, you can become a member, which is the platform that we are sharing with DDFC, or you can become, if you're ready to start your own business, you can incubate your business with us. The advantage of incubating your business within In5, if you're in Dubai, is because it's a partnership with the government, our costs are all subsidized. So your business license, your visa, your office space, everything is going to cost much less than if you're going to do that elsewhere. And in addition to that, to the basic business setup, you have all the intelligence and training and networking and connection with investors that we bring to the table as well. And again, because it's a partnership for industry development, we don't take equity. So you own 100% of your company. It's a free zone license. So you are 100% owner of your own business. You can leave us whenever you want. Actually, to us, the earlier the better, because it means that you have become a successful business. So the faster you grow, the better for us, and that's what we aim for. And I think that so that's like your immediate type of benefit. The not so obvious type of benefit of joining Five, and I think we still have a lot of our startups who don't actually quite get the grasp of it, is you have an enormity of resources within Five, right? And I'm talking about the direct connection to many of the businesses under TCOM. We have over 150 mentors that work with us. We have partners that offer free for our members workshops, talks, advisory sessions, and so on and so forth. And I think that exploring and squeezing as much as you can out of that infrastructure is probably, I would say, that is the biggest failure of all of our startups, is not using Five enough, right? We do have we had our meeting, Manoj, in Five Media, where I showed you around the lab. So our infrastructure is, it's amazing.
It's brilliant.
Yes, and it's super accessible, right? So I would say that the biggest flaw of our startups is not using Five enough. We have a sandbox type of approach with our startups. So we had, for example, last year, a startup on the tech center, and they created this app to manage parking spaces, right? So basically, if you're approaching, let's say, your building with your phone, you open the gate. So you remove the need to have somebody there. You remove the need to have another key chain hanging around you, or to have those controllers that never work properly when you're parking your car in front of your garage. No, you do it through an app. The moment your car approaches, the gate opens. It's super seamless. So we were the testing ground for their product. They say, look, this is what we're developing. We need to test something in practice, in a real life application before we go and sell it. Can we do it? Yes, please do it. We used it for over 6 months. It worked perfectly. It's a super nice application, and it's super easy to implement these kind of things with us. So this is just an example of somebody who actually clicked and say, okay, let's do something together. That doesn't necessarily, that is not going to honorate me a cost, that can gives me the data that I need. It can gives me the track record that I need. We are more than happy to do these kind of things. We are preparing now, because of the whole COVID-19 situation. We are preparing some online sessions on design. We are in conversations with some online retailers to enable our members and startups to sell through them as well. So we're constantly looking into these things. But the thing that I like to remind everybody that comes inside in Five is we are a limited team. We have a team of 15 people taking care of 250 startups. So it is impossible for us to anticipate everybody's individual needs. We don't have enough people to do that. And it's not our role to do that. However, we are always open for somebody to come to us and say, look, I wanted to do something like that. Can we do it together? If we can, we will. It's simple as that.
Thank you very much. Gauri, do you want
to? Yes. Yeah. I was just about to say, we have a list of questions here from students. So I would be calling out student names. Let's start with Divina Chabra. Divina, you have a question here.
Can they all switch on their cameras also before they ask questions? Because that will be nice. Thank you.
Divina, go for it. Divina, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you all. Yes. Hello, sir. Thank you so much for the insightful conversation. We're having a great time. My question for you is that when it comes to investors, as per your experience, which are the most appropriate kind of angels or venture capitalists when you have to start a new business venture?
Sorry, can you repeat the question because your voice broke a little bit?
My question is, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. My question is, sir, that when it comes to investors, according to you, as per your experience, which are the most appropriate investors? Is it angel investors or venture capitalists when it comes to starting a new business venture?
Okay, so the type of investor is directly related to your business phase. So angel investors, they tend to invest on what is called a seed investment, which is basically your first round of investment. Usually, it is done even before the product is launched, right? And a lot of the seed investment and angel investment is done either through direct relations. So we have, for example, a lot of family money as seed investment, or through specialized companies that operate angel investment portfolios. So having said that, in order for you to choose what type of investor, or to understand what type of investor is better for your business, the best way to do it is to have a conversation with a business analyst, or if you can, have a conversation directly with the investors and say, look, this is what I am right now. Is it something that you're interested? You know, it's something that you are considering right now. Do you work with this type of investment? They will more likely they will answer your questions in this sense. So they're very approachable in this sense. Venture capitalists, they tend to invest at a later stage. So to bring a venture capitalist on board, you're probably going to have already some track record of sales or of users, registered users, yeah, and so on.
Awesome. The next question here is from Harleen. Harleen, would you like to come and ask a question yourself?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. So it's great to have you on board, and we're getting to learn a lot from you. So my question is, do you think one should prepare a business model at the start or at the end of starting a business? When do you think one should make a business model?
The business model is a very important document, and it is a document that most of the companies, they will have in some way or another, a review of their business models on a periodic time, at a periodic intervals. So having one to start is paramount, because the role of the business plan document at an initial phase is to put on paper all these elements that we have been discussing, right? What is my audience? What is my target pricing points? Who are my competitors? What are my plans for the upcoming 2 to 3 years? How do I get there? What will my financials look like? What is the team that I'm going to require in order to achieve those objectives? So it's very important to spend a good amount of time on your business plan, and to do it very thoroughly and very honestly, right? And as you move ahead with your business, 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, revisit that plan, do that exercise again, because by then you're going to have already accumulated a good amount of experience. You have gone through different situations in your business that will teach you will give you many good learnings about what you have initially thought, and you keep doing that. So every business owner or every well-successful organization, they have a revision of their business plan or their strategy plan on a yearly basis or every 2 years.
Thank you.
Great. Next up, we have China.
Hi. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. China, we cannot hear you.
China, you become muted.
Am I audible here?
Yes, go for it.
Yeah. So my question was that, other than the slash and burn strategy that most of the brands will follow, what else we can do with the excess inventory all the brands will have?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question. Can you repeat, please?
Other than the slash and burn strategy, like most of the brands will do, what else we can do with the excess inventory?
Well, managing inventory or choosing a specific strategy for your business, it has to do a lot with the nature of the business, right? It's difficult because there is no ready recipe for that. So a lot of it makes sense, obviously, when you're starting your own business and depending and looking at what you're trying to do and looking at competition, looking at how they do it, right? That will give a good understanding of what are the strategies that they have followed in the past, what are the key strategic pivots that they have done, and what are the pitfalls of one another. Also, because a lot of the implementation of the strategies, they might be conditioned or conditional, if you will, in the sense that, let's say, for me to have a big e-commerce, I need to have a warehouse. And for me to have a warehouse full of inventory, I need money up front. But if I'm doing a type of business that doesn't require me to deliver in 24 hours, I don't have to keep a big warehouse full of products. So I don't have to do all those purchasing up front. So it really depends on what is the type of business that you're trying to do. I will say it again, there is no set strategy. There is no right or wrong path. There is the one that is more suitable to you. And as usually happens, or very often at least happens with entrepreneurs, there is the ideal route that you would like to take, and it's a bit different or wildly different from the one that you can take. So this is all part of your development as an entrepreneur, is understanding, okay, if I had, let's say, just as an example, if I'm in situation A, I would have this kind of infrastructure around me, and I will have this kind of money around me, and this path would be the path that I would choose. However, I might not have that kind of infrastructure. I might not have that kind of money initially. So I need to take a different path in order to get to the same objective. So that's why we never look at a strategy and as something that is set in stone, because when you do a strategy exercise, you're looking into the future, and there's no way that you can anticipate every minute of every hour of every day that you're going to have on the next 2 to 3 years. So you plan ahead on overarching elements. They help you understanding what is the goal that you're trying to achieve. And based on the goal that you're trying to achieve, you need to look at the tools that you have available to you, right? So your strategic goals might be, I'm going to increase my toolbox. I'm going to try to build more resources around me so I can fast track getting to the goal that I'm aiming on the near future. So it really depends. It's something that is really hard to give a positive answer in this sense.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir.
We have one last question that we'll quickly conclude with. Sai Sandeep, you have a question which is to do with sustainability, and this is a very exciting one. Please go for it.
Sure. Yeah. Hello. Thank you so much for this question. So my question is like, how should our business model should be for fresh sustainable brand like, I know it's very tough to compete with unsustainable brands or fast fashion brands. So to stand and to be more powerful in our way, how should our business model need to?
No, sustainability. I think it's a question that I have very close to my heart. Actually, it is a discussion that, as I mentioned, I'm from Brazil, and Brazil has a very well developed market in terms of sustainability. Although lately developments in our politics doesn't reflect that much, but it is I think it's one of the biggest questions to the fashion market moving forward, or to the fashion industry moving forward, is the sustainability. Simply because it is no longer a matter of fashion, it is a matter of humans being able to survive in the planet, right? So, the discussion can be very wide and very deep, but I think we can boil it down to a couple of very important elements. First of all, is what you position a, because sustainability has many different facets, has many different faces. So are you sustainable because you're employing a specific renewable material? Well, yes, that could be an answer. However, keep an eye, and this is something that, especially with the sustainability element, always keep an eye on the science behind it. Because we have had cases in the past of so-called sustainable or renewable materials that will cost 2 or 3 times more in terms of environmental impact to be manufactured than the synthetic one. So you always need to be careful. And I think sustainability has become such an overused word that people are no longer actually relating it to what it actually should mean. So I think there is a great opportunity for fashion brands to invest in that direction. You don't necessarily have to sell a sustainable brand in order to be a sustainable brand. And I think that's another element that a good deal of so-called sustainable fashion brands, they fall into in trying to sell first and foremost the sustainability impact. But if you think about just doing a quick philosophical exercise here, if you allow me, if you think about the fact that sustainability is a given future for fashion, then being sustainable is going to become a basic need for a fashion brand, right? It's like saying that, look, I'm a product designer, and my product has good quality. Well, that should be a given already for the consumer, right? It's not like I'm going to try to sell something that doesn't have a good quality, or a quality that is good enough for that particular range of product. I think fashion and sustainability will walk towards a similar direction, right? So, and then that puts you as a fashion designer or the owner of a fashion brand who wants to work with sustainability, it puts you on a kind of a spectrum. So do you want to be very sustainable, right? To be like a leading sustainable fashion brand, right? That automatically implies that you need to have a research, that you need to work with research centers, and that your product is going to be more expensive because you're not going to have a mass market for that, at least not initially. Or you could have sustainability as an embedded value in your brand and maximize it across the business in different elements, right? And then you don't have to necessarily have the sustainability as your selling point. So again, is a matter of choice, and is a matter of what is possible to do now or not, or what you can do at this moment and what you cannot.
Thank you very much. I think so. Today morning, also we were having the similar discussion, and we were trying to understand if there's a possibility of a sustainable fast fashion brand that could ever come up, and if it's something like that actually ever exists. And I understand sustainable is something so different from fast fashion. But I think that is the key. That's what a disruptor is all about. So that is what we were discussing right today morning also with the entire team of our postgraduate students. What you said actually makes a lot of sense. So I think, Gauri, we can close the session now. I think it's been quite an amount of time. And so I would, yes.
It's so awesome. This has been really very nice, Thoma. We cannot thank you enough. This has actually been one of the most exciting yet a very humbling experience for us to study fashion through the elements of sustainability, not just in the way it's glorified globally right now, in fact, through a very realistic approach. And the kind of things that you've told us, small elements here and there to sculpt not just students, but other students from all over the world who are following this webinar today about how essential it is to keep your ego in check. We really do appreciate this. And thank you so very much for joining us. We really appreciate taking out time for us today. Thank you, Manoj sir. Thank you, students from all over. A small announcement that I have and I make every day. Please pardon for those who are on loop. However, styleschool.co is now launching our short courses in fashion styling online and fashion and beauty makeup online. For students all over Saudi and UAE, this is a brilliant opportunity for you to study online courses in styling and makeup. Thank you very much. Do follow FAD International for further modules. Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good luck for
Thank you,
everybody.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Manoj, do you have anything to say?
Thank you so much.
Big thank you to Thoma. And Thoma, would you like to leave us with some last final words?
Oh, I think I've spoken a lot this time, but I think I just wanted to wish everybody good luck. If you guys need any help, obviously, from E5 or from myself, you all know how to find me. So I'm always here. And yeah, good luck to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.
You too.
Thank
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
To everybody. That was a wonderful session, guys.
That was, in fact, really very, very insightful.
You should actually come. You should actually go and see the in5 office. Last time when I went and met Thoma, he took me through the entire office and he showed me all the different facilities. And there's this central area where all the entrepreneurs, like all youngsters, like all the children, all the kids on the session today, all these kind of age people sitting with a nice Mac laptop and just sitting and there's some of them are just tech startups, some of them are design startups, and all of them just sitting next to each other. I literally felt that any one of our students, someday when you think of starting off, like for example, when you're sitting down saying, oh, I need to have technology in my business. If you were a part of In5, you would be sitting next to those people. All you have to do is just turn and say, hey, yo, buddy, what's up? I am facing this problem. Can you solve this for me? And that's the beauty of an incubating platform like In5. So when I went last time to him, I promised him that, that maybe in the future, as we start working towards with all the PG and everybody, I promised him that in the future, I would love to bring him some wonderful entrepreneurs from my side who can actually do this. And a great big thank you to Shivang sir also, because actually Thoma is a very close friend of Shivang sir. So a big thank you to Shivang sir. I mean, if he was here, I would really like to thank him for this wonderful opportunity. To all the students over here. Yes, I understand it was not very fashion oriented per se, but entrepreneurial ventures, that's the way for the future. So I saw a lot of those questions coming that post-COVID, should I start my business? Should I not start my business? No one can give you a definitive answer on that question, but it is always going to be, like every entrepreneur, it's always going to be your own understanding of what's happening around. Great session.
Really very fabulous, really, because honestly, Manoj, in this, the one thing I observed, and I'm pressing on this again, is the fact that he spoke so realistically when it comes to things like sustainability. For example, for us, when you speak to a student, or even myself for that matter of fact, when you speak of a sustainable brand, it always ends up being the product that comes to the mind as the first key focus. But sustainability could have so many more different angles to it. I mean, really, it was like a breath of fresh air to hear the actual reality of what goes inside a true sustainably viable brand. Yeah.
Great. I think thank you very much, Gauri. You've done a great job helping us and coordinating the entire session. We really could not have done it without you. Thank you very much. And thank you to all the students. So I'm going to log off now. Thank you guys. Have a beautiful evening.